Okay, welcome everybody to this talk about the human cost of AI. I'm very happy to see you all here in the audience, and I'm particularly happy to welcome our speaker, Mophat Okinyi, online. I'm not at all happy, Mophat, that you cannot be here with us today, since the German authorities did not give Mophat a travel visa, which is shameful, and I'm really sorry about it. Nevertheless, I am delighted that we can listen to your talk today and discuss with you online. Before I hand over to you, I would like to briefly introduce you to the audience. So Mophat Okinyi is a tech worker from Nairobi in Kenya. He is an experienced data trainer in machine learning with a background as a content moderator since 2019. He was involved in training OpenAI's ChatGPT and particularly in training ChatGPT to be able to recognize potentially harmful content. Mophat is also a human rights activist who throughout his career has actively advocated for the fair treatment and rights of online content moderators, tech workers, and data training professionals. Mophat Okinyi is a committee member and founder of the African Content Moderators Union. His work addresses working condition challenges and promotes professional development, reflecting a commitment to advocating for the rights and well-being of African tech professionals and content moderators. As the founder and CEO of Tech Worker Community Africa, he continues to lead initiatives aimed at fostering a thriving tech industry on the continent. So again, Mophat, I'm happy that we can have you here, and I'm very much looking forward to your talk, which I think will be about 30 minutes long, and I'm also very much looking forward to discussing with you after your talk. So with that, the floor is yours. Here in the room, so maybe wait a minute until we have fixed that. Sorry about this. You didn't mute yourself, Mophat, did you? I still can't hear you. So I'm sure the problem is on our side. Hang on. Sorry, I can still not hear you. Can you try again?
Hello.
Oh, great. I can hear you. That's a relief.
Ah,
Great to hear you. So sorry for the interruption. Could you please start with the talk again?
okay. So I was saying that I'm very happy to be here today to address a topic on the human cost of AI. As someone who has been training data for 4 years, and someone who trained data that was used to train ChatGPT to not populate illegal content and potential harmful content. So today I'm going to cover 360 degrees of who are these workers that are very crucial in training AI models and those who are doing content moderation, and what are the risks associated with their work, and what are the working conditions that they are going through in their daily lives. So to start with, I want to say that for every AI models, they can't come into existence without data. So I always believe that there is no data, there is no AI without data. And also, there can't be any social media platform, be it Facebook, TikTok, LinkedIn, without content moderation. So those who do that work are very crucial, but in many cases, they go unnoticed. We've seen in many cases where people do celebrate the product itself. Like in the case of ChatGPT, when it was launched, people were like, it's a good tool, and they didn't mind to dig deep and see people who trained it. Same to the other day, OpenAI launched Sora, the text to video tool, and everyone was celebrating it, but they didn't bother to see or to inquire those who are instrumental in training its data. So that's what I want to discuss today, and I hope everyone is going to learn something out of it. So to start with, I want to start by mentioning people who are very uh, those who are training data for machine learning. So we call these people data labelers. So data labelers, what they do is just to label data, and that data is again going to be used to train AI tools. For instance, I want to give an example of a self-driven vehicle. So for a self-driven vehicle to learn how the road is, it has to be taught just like a child. So they do bring videos of cars moving in the on the road, and then we label the lanes, we label the cars, pedestrians, and everything around the road, so that the self-driven vehicle can learn everything around it. So it's the same thing that happens to things like drone or robots. Like they have to be taught like a small child. So that work is done by data labelers. And then we also have social media um, that people do moderate content, so that any content that goes out on social media does not violate any user guidelines. So that work is done by people we call content moderators. So for content moderators, they just ensure that any harmful or illegal video content or image does not go online. So if you post everything on the social media platform, let's say Facebook, it has to go through content moderators, and then they will have to look at that content and then approve whether it can go live or not. So some of those content are very traumatizing, and they just have to be done by people, not a machine. So as long as we have social media platforms, content moderation work will always continue. So let me take you back to how data training work came to Kenya and Africa. So in some years back, in around 2008, there was a lady who was here in Africa, and she saw potential in Africans, and started some kind of non-profit business of training data. And there was an office that was started here in Nairobi to engage youths into data training kind of work. And the focus by that time was people who are from informal settlements. Yeah. So around Nairobi, we have some slums, and people from those slums are perceived to be people who cannot easily get jobs. So that was the purpose of starting data training centers here in Kenya to uplift those who are from those informal settlements from poverty. So when this work started, the founder's aim was to uplift people from poverty, and especially those who are from informal settlement. So when the business started as a non-profit organization, after a few years, the company that started that work became a multi-billion company. And then others became interested in starting the same business, and we had several companies doing the same job here in Kenya. So people who are training this data, they train data for the big companies, and most of these companies come from San Francisco. So we train data for bigger companies in the world, though I have a long list, but I am not allowed to name them. But they are big companies that whose data are being trained here in Africa. So the companies that engage people in this kind of trainings, they are called outsourcing companies. And when they come to bring this work here in Kenya, they promise workers a lot of things. First, they say, if you do this work, your life will change. If you do this work, you will never be poor again. If you do this work, you are able to earn some reasonable cash that can help you live your daily lives. But in the real sense, from 2008 to last year, 2022, the data labelers here in Kenya were earning 21,000 Kenya shillings, and 21,000 Kenya shillings in a month. If we break it down into a hourly rate, it's around 0.75 US dollars. So that's what data labelers earn till last year, 2022. And when we became very much vocal about the pay, the companies did something and added them 6,000 Kenya shillings. So currently the basic salary for data labelers here in Kenya is 27,000 Kenya shillings, which again, if we translate into hourly rate, because they work for 8 hours, we come up with 0.95 US dollars. So that's what currently data labelers are getting as pay. And again, these companies do say that, we are helping to lift these people's lives from poverty. We are giving digital work, and they sell that agenda to the government, and government see them as people who are helping our people. But again, 0.95 USD per hour, and then you work for 8 hours a day is not enough, considering the current living standards in Kenya. So you find that these data labelers, based on what they are being paid on a monthly basis, most of them sometimes cannot afford even a bus fare to work, though they live very close to the companies they work for. So in many cases, they can't even afford bus fare to work. And if they go to work, they can't afford even to buy lunch. And if they happen to buy lunch, they go to we call them the small shops around the work, where they can get something for 50 shillings, 50 shillings. And that's how their life is. And because what they are being paid cannot meet their daily lives, they end up taking some debts. In Kenya, we have a business called Silock. So Silock is where you can take your belonging, like a TV, a phone, and then you give them. They give you some cash, and then at the end of the month, you come and take your belonging with an interest. So if they give you, for example, 30,000 Kenya shillings, you give them your television. Then at the end of the month, you go and take that television with an interest of 30%. So you pay additional cost of 900 Kenya shillings. So that is the life of data labelers here in Kenya. So if that's their life, then what is the government doing about it? And why are people not talking about that kind of situation here in Kenya? So the companies who are doing this work, they tell the government that, we have employed so many youths, and these youths are getting some good salaries. And due to that, government tend to favor their businesses. And again, another thing that's happening is that most of these companies, they train people. So if they train you, they tell you that after this training, you will get some kind of work. And then for that training also, you have to pay. So if they collect data of people that they train on a weekly basis, they have a very large number of people. And they take that data to the government and say that, we've trained, for instance, hypothetically, we've trained 3,000 Kenyans, and these Kenyans are from informal settlement, and we're just waiting for the clients in the US to give us work, and then we'll employ them. So you see, if the government sees such kind of a number, they see that these people are really employing our people. And then the same data that they collect by training people, they take it to the clients in the US and say that, hey guys, I've trained 3,000 Kenyans, and if you give us this job is going to change these people's lives. So by doing that, the clients tend to give them job because they think if they give that job, they will impact people's lives. So it's becoming a marketing strategy. Like they take data and use it as a marketing strategy. Outside, then they get job, and once they get that job, for instance, if I'm the client, I can give a company like Summersource a job that can run for 1 year, and give them reasonable targets, a weekly targets that can run for a period of 1 year. So what these companies does is that they have their own data annotation systems. So instead of a project running for 12 months, the company tend to raise the targets, and then the work that's supposed to be done for 1 year is done for hypothetically 6 months, and then they store this data into their system. And the data labelers who are doing this work are sent home because there is no work for them to do. They are being sent home. So by the time they are sent home, the client is not told that the work you gave us has been done and we have it into the system. So the work that's supposed to be done for 12 months is done for 6 months, and then they store it in their system and they continue delivering it every month for the 7th month, 8th, up to 12th. So it's also a scheme to maximize profit, and then again frustrate data labelers because for the 6 month period that these people are sent home, they won't have any form of income. Yeah. So why do this work is still being done in Kenya, and people tend not to be vocal about it? So people tend to believe that before you get a decent job, you can't afford to lose the current job that you have. So that's why people with the poor working conditions, with the shorter contract terms of 3 to 2 months, they can never leave summer or any other BPO here in Kenya. They just still stay there and look for jobs. But again, they're not in a position to talk for themselves. Yeah. So even if you go through such kind of working conditions and all that stuff, you cannot talk, because if you talk and your contract is just for 3 months, they won't renew it. So by not renewing your contract, it means you are going to be jobless. So all this thing happening in the data labeling industry, I do compare it with digital slavery or digital colonization. Because if you compare the olden dark days of slavery, the slave master used to come to Africa and then they talk to African chiefs, and then the African chiefs will give them cheap labor and slaves based on the promises that they give those youths. So that's the same thing that's happening here in Kenya now. These people come, they talk to the government and entice the government officials with very good promises of employing people, of pulling people from poverty, and that's not really the case. So once they do that, government allows them to operate and subject people to very poor working conditions, and no one can question them. So they just pay people to keep them going to work every now and then. But again, just like the olden days, if you have a slave, you can just give that person food to survive, to live the next day to go and work in the farm. So that's the same thing that's happening right now in the data labeling industry. They just pay you a small salary to keep you going to work and not to change your life. And again, what's worrying is that the data we are training here in Kenya are being used to make very powerful tools, like the tools we are seeing now that are made out of AI. They are very expensive and well selling outside there. And what they spent to make that tool is really very little. So I also tend to question those who bring this work to Africa, like a company like Meta, for instance. Meta used to do their content moderation job work here in Africa, and then they were trying to avoid being asked questions of why can't you provide mental health support, why you not paying people the living wage, or why is the working conditions very poor. So when they bring this work to Kenya, they tend to run away from their responsibilities as a company to take good care of their employees. So by bringing this work to Kenya, they say the workers are not their workers, but again, those people are working for them and working on their data. So that's the situation we are in right now, that people are being frustrated in by doing this work, and they can't complain to anyone. And since I started becoming very vocal about working conditions and all that, I've been receiving so many messages from people who are working in these companies, and they're saying that, oh, bro, you are doing a good job. For us, we are being frustrated here, but we can't talk because this is where we get our daily bread, And because that's where they get their daily bread, they cannot question what's really happening. And then there is also a scheme that's being used. These people employ people from informal settlement, and they also employ people who are very young, an age of between 18 to 22. So someone of the age of 22 or 18 is someone who does not know much about his or her labor rights, someone who cannot question, because the managers in those companies are mature people, So they see these people as their mentors, their leaders, and they accept anything they are being told. So even if you are told to work for overtime hours without overtime pay, you can't question and ask why. So that's also a scheme that they are using. They employ very young people who cannot question the evil they are doing. And then once these people have stayed in this company for years and they've matured up enough, they are being taken home, and they employ another group of young people. So that's also a scheme that is being used, of employing people who are just from high school, who cannot question what they are doing. Yeah. So I'm now moving to content moderation job that's happening here in Africa. So content moderation job is just a way of pulling down. If you're working on a social media platform, you just pull down illegal content that are being posted online. And then if you are doing content moderation to train a language model like ChatGPT, you work on texts that are illegal or traumatizing in nature. And then you read them and then classify them so that the tool can be trained not to populate such kind of content. So for those who are doing live content moderation here in Kenya, I've gotten time to interact with them. They watch videos that are very sensitive, and these videos have psychological effects on their mental health. And because these companies, they focus more on profit than on people's health, they employ wellness coaches. So employing a wellness coach to support content moderation is like taking a bus driver to go and be a pilot to move aeroplane around, or taking a nurse to go and do a surgery. So wellness coaches are not fit for content moderation, and those are the resources we have here in Kenya to support content moderation. That's why you get that content moderators here in Kenya are having problems mentally because they don't get a support from a psychiatrist who is professional and who can support them in their daily work. So someone might ask, if this work is this dangerous, and then why do you subscribe to it? Yeah. So how we get employed to do content moderation here in Kenya, it's also a very fish kind of behavior, because when they hire you, they don't tell you that you are going to do content moderation, and they don't tell you the effects of content moderation. So they somehow lure you into the job. Like for my own case, I was working on sexual content for ChatGPT, and when I was getting into that job, I wasn't told the nature of job and the effects of the job and the kind of support I needed to do that job. So I was just told that, Mophat, there's a project, and for you to go to this project, you have to do some kind of assessment. So I did an assessment and then passed, then went into training, and I was enrolled into that work. So after working on, after reading several texts that were sensitive in nature and traumatizing, we realized after 1 week that the kind of content we were reading on a daily basis were dangerous to our mental health, and we raised an alarm with the management to give us some kind of support. And we even did emails, and none of the senior people from SAMA responded to us. And one of the days they sent a wellness coach who happened to have a session with us to counsel us. And from my own experience and from the feedback I got from my colleagues, that guy did not have any idea about how to support us as content moderators. So it was just like asking us, how is your day? How is work? How are you doing? Those are very basic questions that anyone can ask. So we never got that support that we needed from a professional to give us enough support. And then when we pushed so hard for these services, the company decided to send us home to go and work from home so that we don't bother them. And at the end of the day, they left us with mental problems. So for my own case, I had difficulties in sleeping. I didn't want to interact with people. I had hyperarousal, and then I had PTSDs. And then due to change of my behavior, I had to lose some of my close family members. And then even some of my friends that work really affected their mental health, and they are not living a normal life now. And we don't only blame Summersource for not providing us professionals to support us, but we also blame the owner of the work, which is OpenAI, because if you are developing any project that you feel has some kind of traumatizing content that people are going to do, you should do some kind of a risk analysis and see that if this work is sensitive and it is going to be done by people, how are we going to make sure that these people are safe while doing this work? So they never did that. That's why I always say we have to hold the big tech companies accountable, be it OpenAI, be it Facebook, be it ByteDance. They have to be held accountable for any work that people do for them and affects their own health. So based on these experiences of poor working conditions, low pay, and the effects of this work, we came together as tech workers and content moderators here in Africa, and we decided to form a union to see if we can make things change. And our union is not yet registered, though we are actively working with our members to advocate for better working conditions. So when we became sort of on these companies and outsourcing companies, by that time Meta was still operating here in Kenya. And when we became sort of on them, they decided to move from Kenya to Ghana. So they've moved to Ghana to go and exploit people in the same way they were exploiting people in Kenya, because Kenyans became somehow vocal and knowledgeable of what is supposed to be done. So they decided to move. So we also want to tell big tech companies that let them not be running away from problems. Let them try to address issues that are being raised by the workers. Yeah. So we don't want to see a situation where ByteDance is moving their offices from Kenya, or they work from Kenya to another country, because they have failed to comply with the demands of workers in Kenya here. So in conclusion, I want to say that data labelers and content moderators are very important people in AI development, because there can't be AI without data. Every AI tool has to be trained using data, and that data has to be trained by people. So if you are doing budgeting for any AI tool, we should consider people's well-being. And if you happen to have any social media platform like Facebook, TikTok, and maybe IG, Instagram, you should consider first those who are making your platform safe, because without content moderation, then no one will be comfortable to go and visit TikTok, will be able to go to visit Facebook, will be able to go to visit ChatGPT. So you can imagine of a situation where you are stressed up and you want to kill yourself, and you go to ChatGPT and asked it that, ChatGPT, hey, how are you? I want to kill myself now. Which kind of poison can I drink, and where can I get it? And then ChatGPT gives you a response with the right poison that can kill you immediately, and then takes you to a link where that poison can be bought. It could be a very dangerous thing. Same to Facebook. If you are browsing on Facebook with your kid or your wife or someone close to you, and you see some kind of very crazy stuff, you will not even want to go and visit Facebook. So people are very important for the prosperity of these products, and the owners should take good care of those who are training data and those who are making sure that their platforms are safe. Thank you.
You have the possibility to raise questions in the audience. There is a microphone in the middle where you simply can go to. You can also raise questions online in the chat that will be read out then. Maybe I start immediately. Mophat, you described very vividly the terrible working conditions that you as data annotators and content moderators have. And you also said that you formed a union. Can you tell us a little more about the concrete aims that you have within that union? So what are the main goals that you want to achieve there with regard to the working conditions?
Okay, thank you, Rebecca. So for the union, we want to have a collective bargaining, because we saw that if you question this kind of injustices as a person or as a small group of people, the company can decide to fire all of you, the way they did for Meta workers. So those who are working for Meta, they were a group of around 200 individuals, and all of them said that, things are bad and things should change. So what Facebook did, and summer sources, was to fire all of them and take the same work to a mother company called Majorel. So, with the union, they won't be able to do that, because we'll be able to have like 3/4 of employees of that company. And you can't just fire 3/4 of your employees. And then we'll also have some kind of lawyers who can, before you fire people, you have to pass through them, So that's what we are trying to do. And then also we have a situation where when we press them so hard here in Kenya, they move to a place like Ghana. It will reach a time that when we press them so hard in Africa, they will move to places like Bangladesh, India. So we also want to have a global alliance with the content moderators across the world, so that if they run away, they find some of our members there. So we don't want them to run without being noticed. Like now they are in Ghana, and Ghana, we are still not there. So we are trying to make things work. So we just don't want to give them that leeway of escaping or moving away from problems. We want them to address those problems. So with the union, we want to have collective bargaining, and we also want to have some kind of global coalition with people from different areas, so that they can't find anywhere to run to.
A global alliance really sounds like a reasonable idea. Do you already have some like global support, or is there any way to support your organization already?
Okay, so now we are still in the registration process, and we still don't have legal capabilities of liaising with people from outside. But still, we are liaising with established unions. Like the other day, we were talking with people from Utau. It's a union in the West. It's called Utau. So we were in talks with them, and we were sharing ideas. And also, we are in talks with German content moderators, and we just want to see what the plans they have and the plans we have, and how we can bring these plans together and make some kind of global coalition and share ideas together.
Well, good luck with that. I hope this will grow pretty soon, and let us know if there is any way to support your organization. So you gave a very vivid picture of the working conditions that you have. Like, can you also give me an idea of how many people are working as content moderators in Kenya right now? And like, are some of them already organized in a union, or is that really something that is just beginning?
Okay, for content moderators now in Kenya, I don't know the exact number, but I know we are 1,000 plus. And since the union we are forming now is going to be the very first union for content moderators, and for the youths, the existing unions are for the members of that union are somehow old people who don't understand tech a lot. So there are still no union legally registered to protect content moderators, but the one we are working on, it's called Content Moderators Union of Kenya. So that's the union that they are waiting to be registered, then they join, because we are already in talks with them and they are willing to join the union. So we have the numbers, we're just waiting to have papers, and then we'll have all of them on board.
I see. And you also told us during your talk that the working conditions can be fairly traumatizing in some cases. And you also pointed out that in your case there was a lack of support. Is there a way at all in making this like working conditions like more ethical, and what kind of support would you like to see there?
Okay, that's a really good question. So we want to first see a transparency in the hiring process, so that before you employ someone to be a content moderator, you have to tell that person that, hey, you are going to do content moderation, and content moderation entails ABC, and the effects of doing this work are ABC. So currently we lack that kind of transparency. And then we've also seen a situation of targeting youths, very young people from the age of 18 to 22, to do such kind of work. So, someone who is just barely 18 years is someone who has just graduated from childhood to to adulthood. Such kind of a person is does not have capability of questioning things, and if you expose them to such kind of job, it really interferes with them. So we also want to have a system of where we can have an age bracket for content moderators, and we also want to see if we can professionalize content moderation, because right now it's just a job that you can give anyone, but if we have some standards of professionalism in it, then it can be a cool stuff to do. And then lastly, we now technology is growing, so we also want to see if the companies that bring this work on the ground, For instance, if it's Meta, we want to see Meta taking responsibility of their work, yeah, and try to see how they can reduce exposure of sensitive content to people. So for instance, I would love to see if we are doing content moderation, we have AI assistance in between, whereby some content can be blocked by AI and then they are taken to a certain queue with few people so that not all content goes out to everyone. Yeah. So, but that will be trying to reduce exposure so that not all sensitive content get in touch to the general content moderators.
Yeah, thank you. There is a question in the audience by Stefan.
Yeah, thank you for your talk. One question: what would you wish us to do that we've listened to you now to raise awareness to that cause? What could we do? What should we do, in your opinion, apart from pointing to the recording of this talk?
Okay, what can really help is because most of this work come from the West. So, and I've seen in many cases people from the West, especially the European Union, they make legislations that protect only their countries. Yeah, like the other one that was recently made about the platform workers. So they tend to make legislation that only protect their own countries, yet this work, most of it is not done in their own countries. Most of this work is done by in Africa. So I think you can make legislations that extend even to Africans, because European Union are also in the African Union. So if we widen legislation along that line, then these people can be held accountable even whether they work in Africa or in the Europe.
Okay, are there questions from the chat? Yes.
There's one question from the chat. I guess we will know the answer, but I'll ask it anyway. So are there any other benefits for the content moderation workers? Is there anything like insurance, pensions, bonuses, shares?
Okay. Right now in Kenya, I'm hearing some kind of echo. I don't know whether you are okay with it. Okay. Let me proceed. I was hearing some kind of echo from my end. So in Kenya, these companies operate in a very fishy manner, in a way that even if they have a contract with the client that runs for 10 years, yeah, for example, you are the owner of the content moderation job, maybe you are the client from Meta, and you bring work to Kenya and give it to a company like Summersource and tell them that I'm signing with you a contract that will run for 10 years. So if you give them that kind of contract, they will give content moderators contract that runs for 3 months and they renew it after every 3 months. So if they give you that kind of contract, if you resign, they will consider you as someone who is not qualified to have any benefits from them because you didn't have permanent contract. So the people who are entitled to getting benefits here in Kenya are people with permanent contracts, and the companies don't want to give permanent contracts. They give short contracts of 3 months, 2 months to frustrate people, because during that 3 months, if you talk anything negative about the company, or if you raise your voice about things that are happening around you, they won't renew it. And then for the medical covers that we have in place, they're just normal medical covers that does not include such kind of services. But again, if they add the services, content moderators need psychiatrists on the floor. You don't have to be affected, then go to the hospital. You should have someone on the floor who can give you 24-hour kind of support. And that is what we are lacking here in Kenya. So there are no benefits, and the medical cards are as useless as they are. Like, they can't cover such kind of support.
Thank you. So I think there is another question in the audience. Oh, no, there's just somebody with a microphone in your hand. I thought you had a question.
Yes, I have a question.
Okay, Mophat, can you hear the person from the audience?
Can you hear me? Yeah, good. I think now
Yeah,
it
now I
sounds.
can.
Yeah, I have a question about who are the owners of the companies who do the content moderation in Kenya? Are that Kenyan people or are that subsidiaries of people of companies outside of Kenya?
Okay, so most of these companies, unfortunately, they are from San Francisco. That's where their headquarters is. For example, Summersource headquarters is in San Francisco. And then we have Remotask, their headquarters is in Francisco. And then like all of them have their headquarters in the US or the West, and they work here in Kenya. So that's the situation we are in. But again, of late, you know, these companies have been getting partners, and we suspect government officials also have shares in those companies. That's why they continue frustrating people, and no one questions them.
I see. I think there's another question from the audience.
Hey, so I would like to ask if there are any means of asserting pressure to the companies, like some types of guerrilla tactics. Can you try to pollute the data set or something like that in order to assert pressure? So when you're a railway worker, you just don't operate your train, but it's certainly harder for digital workers. Are there some concepts?
Okay, we tried to do what we call parliamentary petition. Me and my 4 colleagues, we took a case to Kenyan Parliament because they are the lawmakers, and we told them to regulate how tech companies and outsourcing companies operate here in Kenya. But it was very unfortunate that after taking that parliamentary petition, you know, senior people from BPO Association of Kenya, they have an association where they all work together. All of them, all senior members of those companies from Sama, Majorel, and some other outsourcing companies, they went and had a meeting with the Cabinet Secretary of Trade by that time. And after some time, Summersource called the President of the Republic of Kenya and some senior officials and called them to their offices. So you see, if they add such kind of move, it means they have very close relationship with the government, and following the legal procedures we have here in Kenya of accounting them accountable, it's like a dream that will never be achieved. But again, I saw the other day there was a letter that was written by US Congress to the owners of this work that was trying to call them accountable. So I think it's high time we see if, for example, the SAMA's offices or headquarters are in Francisco, how can we engage the government officials in that area to regulate their work that they do outside the US? Because, you know, Africans are Africans. It's very easy to manipulate them, and all your effort that you try to make, that is how they can manipulate everything. But I believe in the US, all the West things are different, and if you put pressure from them from that other side, then they can make things work here in Kenya or in Africa.
I think we have questions from the chat.
Yeah, one question is that an often often heard argument is like, isn't a job better than no job? What would you answer to those people?
Okay, I will say they say better half a loaf than nothing. So if you have that job, you can't compare yourself with someone who does not have anything at all. So we can say it's better you have it than have nothing. But again, you know, we are living in a civilized world where we should be questioning things. There is no way a return of investment can be 400 million. Yeah. For example, if you bring work to Kenya, you have to be done in Summersource. They get a profit of 400 million. And out of that 400 million in a month, they only spend 50 million to pay employees and rent and electricity. You know, it's not even a good business. It's not even human. You can't take like 99 point something percent of the revenues or of the profit and give people a very little percentage. So if you are doing that, then I don't know how I can describe such kind of a company, but it's not right.
read. So there's a second question from the chat.
Yeah, thanks, Mophat. And another question is like, apart from the union you're about to form or have just formed, are there any other organizations in Kenya or elsewhere in Africa or elsewhere in the world that work towards a fair AI environments? And do they also already have to report some successes or failures on their course?
Yeah, we have such organizations, and we also have one. I founded one called Stakwa Community Africa. So we are working with organizations here in Kenya. You know, we have also organizations that are fighting for fair working conditions of platform workers and data workers. We have an organization called Siasa Place. Siasa Place is very good in this advocacy, and they are working very hard to make things change. We also have very good organizations that have been supporting us from the UK, on how we can change things. So we have so many organizations that are supporting us and are looking forward to seeing changes in everything we do.
Are there further questions? Yes, there's another question from the audience.
What kind of content do you moderate? Is the content more on the focus of the European market, of the African market, or the North American market states?
Okay, so content moderation is wide. We have content moderation for training a language model like ChatGPT. So for that one, you just work on text that are used to train that model. So if the model will respond to responses in English, then the text has to be in English. So we also have platforms like TikTok. So TikTok, you know, people go live in different languages. Yeah, that's why in Africa, where they have larger customers or clients, people speak in their local languages. So they have to be, the content itself has to be moderated in the local language. Same to the West, there are some languages that we cannot understand and moderate. So it has to be moderated by people from that language. That's why companies like TikTok, however much we put pressure on them, they can't run away from Africa completely. They will just have to work with us because we're the people who understand those languages. Yeah. We also have a type of content moderation where you moderate videos. So for instance, if you're working on videos about murder, you don't have to really know the language that those people are speaking because you will be focusing on video and what's happening. So in that context, we moderate content from the entire globe. So the content that are being moderated are just anything illegal. Anything illegal has to be moderated and pulled down.
Do you have any connections to the government if you find illegal content, or is this intern?
Okay, for us, what we do is to pull that content down, and I think once we pull it down, it will go to a different pool of maybe lawyers who assess the content and see. For example, if someone has posted a video of terrorism, once we pull it down and we classify it as terror video, and then I think we have a specialist who will go and check it and do more investigation about that video. So after pulling it down, it goes to a different pool, and then those people can look at it in different perspective.
Okay, there's a further question in the audience.
Hey, Mophat, you mentioned that there's lots of people coming from the informal sector into those content moderation jobs. So I'm just assuming that the education, they haven't received that much, probably. And what kind of training do they get? How do they decide what is what you call illegal, or what is good, what is not good? You know, so what kind of training is it that these people are getting? Because it seems to be like there must be situations where you would need to have some kind of like professional expertise to decide what are you reading or what are you reading, seeing.
Okay, so for data labeling work, it doesn't need much experience when you get into that job. So people from informal settlement, there are people who has gone to school, but because we believe in Africa that for you to get some kind of job, you have to have some kind of connections and all that stuff, which they don't have. So based on where they live in slums where even rent they don't pay that much and all that stuff. But when they come to summer, they get basic trainings of labeling data. But again, along the way, they are being transitioned to do different things. Yeah, some complicated things. But for content moderation work still, here in Kenya, someone who has done a Form 4 and passed well, understands English very well, and is able to classify English text. So there is no level of training that they are being given to give them some kind of training on their rights, because for you to know your basic human rights, it's good you have some kind of you go to college, university, and all that stuff, and you get exposure and learn some of these things. But if you just merely from Form 4, then you may not even be able to understand some of your rights and worker rights and labor rights and all that stuff. So that's the training they lack. They just get basic trainings on labeling data.
Can I ask a follow-up question on that? I mean, I assume that to do content moderation, you need to have some guidelines of what is considered to be harmful content, and I'm still curious what kind of training you get there. Distinctions.
Okay, so how things happen in this BPOs is different. The training they give people is just to help you do the work. Yeah, it is not to help you with anything else. So for every project that comes in, if it's from ByteDance, for example, if it's coming from TikTok people will bring what we call a guide on how they want their work to be done. Yeah. So for our own case, because we were labeling sexual content, we were given a guideline of how to classify those texts, those sexual content. So there were some guidelines and some kind of parameters that we were supposed to read and classify those texts under. So the training we get is just to do the work and nothing else. There's no training about the effects of the work, how you should be safe while doing the work and all that stuff. They only give you a training to do the work. That's the only training we get.
Thank you. Are there further questions in the audience? Yes, there is a question in the chat. Hang on.
Yeah, the internet wants to know, you're also the CEO of a company you formed, the Tech Workers Community Africa. Can you tell us more about its mission and how one can assist?
Okay, so build on the experiences that we passed through, because the founders of that, of the TCA, we call it TCA in short, because it's Tech Worker Community Africa. The founders are also the victims of exploitation that people go through in these companies. So our aim is to create awareness. Most of people in the tech industry or in data labeling are people who are just high school dropouts, and they don't know much about what's wrong and what's right. So we are trying to bring them together and try to give them some kind of training and education on their rights. And then we are also looking at it in terms of those who have been fired, because some can employ 5,000 today and fire all of them tomorrow. So we are also looking at how we can empower those who are jobless. Yeah, by giving them some kind of training and skills that they can use to survive outside there, because at the end of the day, life has to continue. And these people, the funny thing that we realize is that you get employed after finishing Form 4. So after Form 4 you get employment, and then they employ you for something like 2 years, and then in that 2-year period you get some salaries, and then they fire you abruptly. So when they fire you, you are used to outside, you are not in a position to go back to college, and you don't have money and all that stuff. So we try to bring them together and give them some kind of training that can help them survive outside here. And then we are also advocating for the rights of data workers, and we're also trying to see how we can do some kind of humanitarian work to them. Like, for example, if we can get some kind of work that we can give them to do after training them and all that stuff.
Okay, thank you very much. Are there further questions in the audience? So I think we answered the questions from the audience so far, and we should also come to an end at some point. Mophat, is there anything that you would like to add or let us know before we close this session?
Okay, so I want to first thank the audience for joining and for listening for me. So as I conclude, I know that people who are willing to contribute and to support us in whatever we do. So for the union, we accept donations and partnership and every kind of advice and referrals. Same to the TCA. So for the TCA, if you go to website, there is a link for partnership. So if you have any kind of partnership that you want to bring on board, we accept it. It can be in terms of just advice, connecting us to the right people, giving us the right avenues and all that stuff. So we welcome all kind of support from all well-wishers.
Okay, so thank you again so much, Mophat, for the talk and for the discussion, for raising awareness, also for your work. I wish you a lot of courage for the coming months and years, and I hope that next time we can actually see you here in presence and that you get a visa next time. So thank you very, very much.
Okay, thank you too.
Hey Mophat, are you still here?
Yes, yeah, I'm still around.
So people asked for your socials or links or how one could find you. So we can probably
So
also put it on the YouTube link or in the description.
how can I share it?
Maybe best thing is you post it at the moment in Zoom, and then post it in Zoom, and then we'll make it available.
Yeah, so that's my LinkedIn handle. That one, and then for the TCA,
Yeah, maybe the website.
yeah, let me just share it. So for the website, there you go.
Perfect.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
does the union itself also already have a website?
Now for the union, not yet. We are working on it. The next within the next 2 weeks, we'll be having our website running.
Okay, then
It's work
just
in
like
progress.
tell it to Guido, and they will relay it, and we can also update the information here.
Okay, sure. I'll do that.
Okay. Okay, it's actually already posted on the YouTube description, right, and on our Temporär House website. Oh, and it's we
Yeah.
posted it also in the chat, so people will find it.
Yeah, sure. All right. Anything else?
Wait, let me ask. Do we need anything else from Mophat at the moment, or we'll just close it for now and we'll stay in contact? Okay, no, like from here we're now like having here little smaller discussion groups, and you'll just stay in contact with Guido, and he will relay it if there's anything more.
Okay, sure. Then bye.
Yeah, thank you very much. And
Hi.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.